I'll go. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you want this one here?
Thank you.
That of me. We resume the public hearing at 8:05 p.m. Okay. We leave off here. Sorry. We left off. Where did we leave off? We were discussing the,
Cul-de-sac setbacks.
right. So are there more questions on the cul-de-sac setbacks? Would you refresh my memory about the name of that, where you can, where the engineer shoots whatever that thing is to,
So this is Chris Hartke, town engineer, a form board survey. So it's actually a licensed PLS surveyor, goes out, confirms the corners of the property or something to reference, and then will shoot all the wood forms prior to any of the concrete or other flat work being performed. And so what that does is that gives us a really easy way to check some of those setbacks before there's a lot of cost invested.
that is not in our ordinance as I understand. But is it something costly for an engineer over and above or what? How does that work?
It is not in the ordinance requirements. It would be tied to either your building permit as something that the developer would attest that they're going to do as part of pulling that permit, or voluntary. I mean, those are really the only two things. And like I said, we have other developers that are doing it voluntary because they like that double check. And so the cost, I mean, I shouldn't really say what the cost is, but the relative cost of something like that, because you've already got, typically you already have a surveyor on site that's doing other work, that's doing things, is a very small impact to the overall cost of the development. You agree?
Yeah, I'll state it today. You're okay. All there.
I can't speak for our building official who's not here tonight, and he's the one who is performs the inspections and reviews all of the construction plans. But I will say that I have seen form board surveys in the past that are submitted and that are kept with the property file. I can't speak to whether they are a hard requirement or what specific permits they are associated with. But I know I have seen them in the past, and so it is something that our building inspector has received from developers.
It is probably related to floodplain. If you're doing work near a floodplain, you have to set that finished floor, and it has to be on the plat. And a lot of times they'll associate it with that because that locks in that record that it was built at the right elevation per plan and per flood insurance and all that, and kind of gets that documentation in there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions on that? Shall we move on to any other questions in any other areas?
At the end of this document, you have some HOA-backed lots with fences proposed. And this fence goes all the way around the perimeter of a lot of the property, including the 407 curve, where the fence appears to split the back of the lots, maybe in half, so you have about a 2.5 foot distance between the road and the fence here.
Yes, so yeah, we wanted to put up a, so the ordinance asks for a 50% transparency fence. And what that means is it's alternating between wrought iron fence and brick fence. So the plan is to put a screening wall around the majority of the property along 407. And the reason why we've brought it in I think it was more than 2.5 feet, probably a little bit more, so that we can landscape the front side of that fence facing 407. It'll be landscaped with flowers and shrubs and, you know, whatever else that's needed to kind of pretty it up. Was that kind of what the question that you were asking, or I might have not
Yes,
followed?
you're exactly on the right track.
Okay.
Who's going to maintain the side facing 407 and the other side of the fence?
If it's inside of the fence, it'll be the homeowner's responsibility. If it's on the outside of the fence, it'll be the HOA's responsibility to maintain it. The city's not going to be responsible to maintain anything related to, you know, the parks or any of the HOA areas.
Are you going to document that in the plat, or how are you document the HOA agreement?
Yeah, it'll be in the
Yeah.
plat. Yeah, it'll be a line item kind of under the notes section of the plat. Yeah.
Could you have shown a lot of different fencing? Could you say what you are actually wanting?
Yeah, the only fence that we put on the preliminary plat is the screening walls that are really surrounding the property. So if you look on the west side of the property, kind of halfway up, you'll see the point of beginning. I think I'm seeing it from a distance here.
Screening wall.
So that it starts right there and it goes all the way up, it goes all the way around the property, and it goes all the way down to the southeast corner. And then it cuts in probably another 20, 30 feet into that lot. So the whole property is surrounded by that screening wall. And generally the reason for that is to separate the residential from the main road and from the commercial on the west side. We really want it to be a beautiful residential development and make it feel that way and really kind of have that separation.
It looks like it starts on lot 2, not lot 1. Does it not?
Yeah, so there's a pond right west of, so if you see where it starts, just southwest of that on the other side, there's a big detention pond right there. So there's really nothing there. There's no commercial, there's no residential, there's nothing else there but a nice big fountain pond. So that's why we stopped the screening wall at that point, because it's a nice view. There'll likely be a fence, like a wrought iron fence, a black one that you can kind of see through. It's a nice view for some of those people's backyards to see a pond in the back.
Will the fencing all be the same? I
Absolutely.
mean,
Surrounding the property, it'll all be the same, and everything within the development, separating the lots out, it'll all be per ordinance. It'll all be exactly what you guys have been used to.
So the pictures that you put in here, there's one at the very top that's solid brick, which you're not thinking of putting a big solid brick and then putting wrought iron next to it and saying that's your.
No, I tried to find, I can't see what you guys are looking at in terms of the top picture, but this is, these pictures are from a development right across the street from where I live. It's a gated community. And I was walking it and I was trying to get inspiration on what examples would kind of look like for the HOA lots, for the park, and then for something to go around the property. We're open. If there's certain things that you guys like, you've seen in the past, you've seen in other places, we're really open from a creative standpoint. If you think certain things might look good, we're very open to it. The intention, kind of what I've seen in the past, and I'm sure Richards has seen this as well, is when cities require 50% transparency, they have a block of a brick fence, whether it's brick or stone or rock or whatever it is. And then the next panel is a transparent wrought iron fence. And then where that wrought iron fence is, they put shrubs and trees and landscaping there. And then they kind of just go alternate back and forth. And then when you're driving off of 407, it doesn't show like Lantana does, right? One long screening wall across the entire thing. It shows up as alternating wall, wrought iron fence, trees and stone. And it kind of makes it more higher end, which is the target market for the development. But again, we're open to comments
I
about
like the picture where the bottom is rock and the top is open.
I do too.
That's what I like, because I'm thinking just one, even if it's one panel, every other one, it's still a solid brick wall that is more city look than country look. And we're all about kind of keeping it country. And I think open space, even though people don't want to see out to the cars in 407, and they might want some noise protection. I don't know. That's just my thought.
And
I like that look better.
And that's something we can even, talk about. We can get you involved in the design process kind of once we start going through that. And we can bring up a lot more examples. These are just ones I took off my phone right across the street. I'd be happy to get a lot more examples and have a kind of a creative discussion about it. And again, I'm a pretty open guy about these things. I try to work with as many people as I can to make as many of you guys as happy as possible. So you just tell me when you want to meet. We'll talk through it.
We really appreciate that. Our other big concern really is how does the 5 foot really make a difference between that lot and making it not a double
Frontage.
Yeah, and 5 foot to me seems like a very little space to make that seem like that's not. So I don't know.
Yeah, so there's two things here, right? There's the property, there's the lots that are kind of in the middle there. And there at one point there was 2 lots, they were double fronting on both cul-de-sacs. And originally we had a 5 foot strip there to really say, okay, well, technically it's not a double frontage lot. We didn't want to do the technically deal, right? I'm not that kind of guy. I don't want to try to beat the system. So we got rid of that lot completely. We put a 1 acre park there. It's going to be, fully landscaped. There's going to be benches there. It's going to look really pretty. I think I included some pictures on kind of what we wanted to do for that. For those lots on the north, though, that's old 407, right? That road there. And all the lots that are on 407 right now, it's per ordinance. It says you can put lots fronting 407. So I just thought, it's really the same road that's just wrapping around the top. So that 5 foot HOA lot is just to be able for us to kind of get those lots on there. Otherwise, it was really not much that we can do with that spot. Again, there's going to be that screening wall there to separate it. It's going to be maintained by the HOA. No burden on the city for that. And then I'm open if you guys wanted to kind of make it a little wider, a little smaller. You want to get involved in how do we landscape it? You want to put a monument sign there? Whatever it is that you guys want, I'll be more than happy to work with you guys on that.
Double frontage wasn't an issue, would you still have the fencing?
I'd probably still have the fencing just because it's a good idea to separate commercial from residential. You mean for the property, for the one on the northwest
For the
corner?
whole perimeter,
Yeah, I'd want to have some sort of fencing there. It's pretty hard to sell lots that are butting up against a major road. If you look in Saddlebrook, right on the entrance off of 407, there's 4 lots there that have been on there for 15, 20 years now, and they haven't sold. They're just sitting there. And again, I want to do as much as I possibly can for the city, but at the same time, I also need to make sure that my lots are sellable. So I'm hoping there's some sort of kind of compromise in the middle where we can make them nice, pretty lots, protect it from the sound, and at the same time, make it into a nice, residential community. Again, my intention here is to make this beautiful. Okay, that's the end goal. Make this thing look pretty, make this thing something that you guys can be proud of and you can hang your hats on, and something that I can take back and show my future customers and clients that look what we did. My name is attached to these things. So I take pride in every single development I do, and you can go ask around town about the kind of business that I do. But my reputation will speak for itself. I promise you that.
This is a question, this is a personal question.
Sure.
And that is, so many of us love Bartonville because of it being country. And granted, we've got not all the 2 acre properties look like country, but that's why Saddlebrook has those white fences out there, because that gives you that feel. And we really don't want to lose that. So if there's a way that you can figure out fencing that looks less suburban, which is what we're all going, no,
Sure.
and still meet your needs, I think it would be more pleasing to the people to say, we do not look like Lantana. Look at us. We're still country. We're doing everything to preserve the beauty and still make a place for people to live.
Totally.
So that, I don't know, it's
It's a
can you do
personal
it? But
question. Yes. I will say this. I'm planning on building a house for myself, either in this one that you guys are looking at or the one that we already got approved. I'm gonna be out here. I'm not just a developer, but I'm me and my wife are trying to pick out which lot we want to live on. I'm all for the country feel. That's what I like. I can promise you this because technically this isn't part of the preliminary plat, but I can promise you this here in front of everyone. I'll be more than happy to pull up a bunch of options, have a sit down meeting with you, with all of you if you want, and then we can talk through what options work and which ones don't. You've got my word on that. When we get into the design process, I'll go around town, I'll take pictures of different things and let's sit down and work through it together. Absolutely.
Hey, guys, are there more questions? My, probably my biggest concern was worrying about these, the 5-foot strip and whether that really meets the double frontage problem or not. The way, whatever you put up, they can't ever, does it not say you're gonna put something where they can't be driving in and out of there?
We had some comments when we had the other double frontage lot. We put a comment in there saying there can be no access off of here. So that lot on the north side, we can gladly put a comment on the plat saying there can be no access on here, and we'll obviously the fence will stop them from being able to access through there. But whatever legal language you guys want us to add on the plat to say that specifically and have it to be on the deed stating that access can't be off of here, I'm all for it. I want access off of 407 and I want the other point of access off of Kentucky Derby. I don't want people to access the property from the northwest side. It's a dead end road. It doesn't look extremely pretty if you guys have driven it. So I'm okay kind of sheltering that off with landscaping or with whatever else that you guys need. And again, not to say that this is not just a one-time thing where I'm coming here. Throughout the process, we can connect through Sylvia, or you guys want to look at the plans as we're designing them and comment on them. I'll be more than happy to do that.
There are 2 notes on the lower left-hand corner of the plat that do speak to that. The first note is the second to the last bullet that lists out a number of lots and requires that their driveway installation be off of the cul-de-sac streets as opposed to off of Kentucky Derby Drive. And then the last note does talk about that no direct driveway access will be permitted off of anywhere on FM 407 or Lone Star Way.
I'm open to any other kind of personal requests and questions. I know they're not technical questions, but if there's anything you would prefer to see, like kind of the question that you had, I'm open to it. Please feel free. I'm as easygoing as they get when it comes from the developer standpoint.
Well, one of the things that I would like to see that would help with that country feel, you know, I know you have to decide what kind of fence, but I would like to see some trees planted on the outside there, you know.
That's gonna
all
happen.
around that curve.
Yeah, you mean along 407, right?
Yes.
That's exactly why we had the question that came from the gentleman about
Okay.
moving the wall back a little bit
Yeah.
further. We want to put landscaping along
Okay.
407, kind of those like small trees, some,
Yes.
you know, some landscaping. So that way, when you're driving down, it's just
Right.
nice green, right? Yeah, and that's
Good.
curb appeal for us
Good.
as well.
Yes.
So it's a win-win for both.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
We have a landscape architect on staff that's his full-time job is to design from a landscaping standpoint what the development looks like. So I'll be happy to bring him at some point if you want, and he can talk specific about the type of trees, the colors, all that kind of stuff that I know nothing about. I'm sorry, I'm just not really good when it comes to the types of trees and types of plants, but that's why I hired him. He'll be happy to come here, Cody Johnson, and kind of help us.
I believe
Thank
we
you.
have tree suggestions in our ordinance someplace, listing of, you know, what's acceptable and all that.
We can do what's per the ordinance, or we can, you know, have you guys help us decide what trees you think look better.
Don't ask me that.
If anyone here is more educated than I am, I'll be happy with that, but.
All right,
I have a issue. I'd like to go back to this fence. On the south side of Saddlebrook, you'll notice there's white fencing, equestrian fencing, it's all through the entire neighborhood. Have you considered using that type of fencing along the perimeter of 407 in lieu of wrought iron or stone?
We thought for the perimeter, that's kind of the big question. Interior, we have no problem using that kind of fence. The big problem is along 407. And just like this, what happened in Saddlebrook, those lots that were adjacent to 407 never sold. Nobody wanted to live right off of it with that white fence. And there's really barely any barrier. You can do a lot with landscaping. But again, that's not to say I'm not open to the idea. We just need to get creative to where maybe some of the lots that are right off of 407, we'll put something there that kind of blocks the sand barrier a little bit more. And then maybe some of the ones that are more towards the interior, maybe on the northern part where it's kind of further away from 407, we can kind of put that white fence. So we'll just have to kind of get creative with it. I don't want to say I'm going to put that white fence along the entire thing because we just need to talk about it a little bit more and see what would work.
What things do create a sound barrier that still meets our ordinance?
Shrubs, those hedges, those big, I think I had a picture in there showing a wrought iron fence with a big hedge behind it. Plants do wonders in blocking sound. So again, I'm not the expert here, but I know there's specific types of plants that are kind of thicker and denser in nature, and they help separate, kind of do a sound barrier. And obviously something green looks better than brick or rock or something along those lines. So there's ways to do it. I mean, we've done plenty of developments around town where, based off of what P&Z and council wanted, we were able to make things work. So it's just, again, I wish I was the expert on the types of plants. Otherwise I would have given you guys more information, but all I can confidently say is I'm willing to work with you guys on it.
I'm gonna make one more comment. Sorry. I would make an assumption with this, you're working with the builder. Outside, you're gonna get the noise no matter what. But there's so much technology now. If you put in the right windows and the right soundproofing in a home, you can be right near a road and not hear it inside. So I would assume if you're building those types of homes, and hopefully you're considering that.
Absolutely. Sound is one thing, and these are $1 million
Right,
dollar home, right? So we have all of the Anderson 300 series windows in there. They're soundproof. I mean, all of that. Sound is one thing, but you have. They're good. They're good. They're not 100%.
I can
Yeah.
attest to that.
But also from a view standpoint, people want some privacy in their backyards
Right.
as well. If somebody wants to put a pool and they don't want people driving, kind of looking in. But there's ways. You don't have to go too high up. Sometimes you can do something that's based off a sight distance, and you go just high up to where people can't see into your backyard, 5-6 feet. So there's plenty of ways to do
Okay.
it. Yeah. So I'm again open to it. Yeah, absolutely.
Got one thing that I didn't comment on before. Just because I'm looking at it more and more. For the curve around FM 407, I think it's a good idea to make that an easement, a landscape easement. Because what I'm thinking about is HOA would be maintaining private property. And if you're an owner and you want to change something, or if the HOA goes south and some part of this fence goes down or goes bad, you don't want to put that on the property owner to go back and rebuild that fence. And putting in an easement doesn't impact setbacks, won't do anything other than take that liability off the property owner, put it on the HOA. So, and just because it's preliminary, it's not a big deal. I just wanted to say it while I was thinking about it. That can be accurate. Exactly.
Thank you. Looks like we can close the public hearing at 8:28. Think up any more questions, don't hesitate to have whoever we need to come back up and answer.
If you're looking at me, I don't think I'll say it right. I don't want to say anything.
This off, but I forgot to turn off the vibration.
But in approving the primary preliminary plat, are we put conditions on it at this point? Just- That's my fellow people here.
I think we're just gonna talk about its uniqueness, right?
Let's go around first and get your feeling, and then see if we need to put some conditions or how you feel. I don't know exactly where you all are.
Conditions can we legally or whatever put on it at this point if we wish to wait as it is, and then at the final plat, make the final decisions and things like that.
Mary,
I'm not comfortable with this fencing. And I'm not comfortable with the 5-foot set off around the 407 curve. If we're going to make that an easement, then we should make it an easement, and the applicant should come back with the modified plan.
can also put make, your other would be conditional with, if you felt that the rest was okay, you can add that as a condition to go to council. So that's another option for you.
Okay, I would be comfortable with that.
That's for doing fencing as for the easement. That's what you're.
Yes, that the fencing has to be uniform around the entire perimeter, and that the frontage, but around the 407 curve between the county road and the fence be made an easement.
Right, I'll have to chime in here. The actual fencing materials is a site plan issue, not a preliminary plat issue. So that item will need to hold for site plan time when that kind of comes. Easement aspect of it is something that can be added as a request for the plat. I believe I heard Omar say that it was acceptable to him too, but at the motion time, you can ask that again.
Are you going to come back with the final plat and your site plan at the same time?
So the final plat typically gets filed after substantial completion is achieved during construction. Correct me if I'm wrong. The preliminary plat just sets the layout for the roads and the lots. And then when we go through engineering, there's a bunch of reviews that happen with the city at that point. For
So
this,
that's what we get next is the site plan.
that's what the city staff gets, right, is the engineering plans, which the site plan is included as a part of that. Yep. Everything to the point where you pull permits for the homes. Yeah. And then the city inspects that, make sure it's done, and then you file a plan after that.
So we don't have to deal with a final plat until after the site plan comes out.
They're gonna be, yes, the plans themselves and yes, they're gonna be done together. We just won't file it until, yes. Yeah, so you guys will get a chance to review the plans and the plats at the same time. That's right.
That's where I was trying to get to. I don't care when it gets filed.
One more.
Oh,
It'll be, this kind of sets the standard, but there may be some tweaks. That's why.
Hey, Richard, so I'm typically not familiar with coming back to P&Z and council for another review of the plats. Right.
Then it'll just be.
Right, yeah, so it'll match. I mean, the plat that you guys see in front of you is what we're gonna use. If we want to add one easement on it, that's the only difference that you're gonna see on it next time. The construction plans are gonna have a lot of the information about the walls that we're using or the no walls, the fencing, kind of all these other details. But that typically doesn't get presented to P and Z. The plans themselves go to council? Right, the final plat will, if, really, does it? I wasn't, I've never done that before.
Final plat gets approved, both places.
Okay, gotcha. After the construction's done, that is, right?
No, so final plat, so as part of approval of construction plans, final plat will be approved typically at council. And then after everything is in the ground, when you file it, you know, the signatures, that would be just filed as council. would be involved.
Got it. So I haven't done that before. Typically, what I've done is a preliminary plat gets approved, and once you get the permits, you file that same plat that was approved at the preliminary plat. If it matches it exactly, you typically don't go back to council for approval. Is that different here?
I would say your typical experience has not been my typical experience. Okay. Most cities, in my experience, have two plat approval processes. The preliminary plat goes through and gets approved by both bodies, and so does the final plat. Secondarily, along with the other aspects, along, you know, the site plan, that kind of thing, constructions. So that will, so it's in our ordinance to look at the procedures again, and subdivision ordinance. I think it's
Yeah,
Chapter
I'm reading
3.
it now. It will have to go through P and Z and
it's
town
in chapter
council.
3.
Does it go on the approval agenda or
Yes.
just on the approval agenda? Okay.
Not
It's not a consent.
Not the
agenda.
consent agenda?
It's not
No,
consent, it's
It
a
will
regular
be,
item.
again, another discussion item.
All right.
So the setbacks, the way they're on here, meet the ordinance. The look of the 5-foot strip thing that's gonna be the homeowners, we know what that's gonna look like. And the, whatever that, wherever that 5 feet quits, along that edge is the property line for the people who are up against that 5 foot in all cases.
It's just that northwest corner is where that 5-foot HOA strip is. It doesn't extend all the way down.
Where does it starts here?
Starts right when is that where the extended right of way is, Sylvia? The future right of way?
Not sure which one you're.
The 5 foot, it should have a note on there that shows where the 5-foot HOA strip stops.
See here, but where does it start?
Starts down on the left and goes all the way up.
It should.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, right at this corner point at the back right of lot 17. Where it starts to break away.
Goes
Okay.
west. And where's it end on the
Right.
west side?
Screening wall point.
It ends, well, the screening walls along the entire thing, but it stops where the Lone Star Way stops and where 407 starts.
Oh,
So it doesn't go along the back of the rural business.
The 5-foot HOA strip is only where Lone Star Way is. Yeah.
Oh, because there is no double frontage on any of those others.
Right.
The wall was throwing.
Sorry, it's hard to put a lot of lines over each other on a small piece of
I
paper.
thought it went all the way down.
And what we were looking at was the wall
Right,
or
right.
whatever.
Which I see that this doesn't need it. But what about along the street here? Is this not a street on the very west side along like lot 4, 3, and 2?
I believe that's a private street, so it's not a public right of way.
I mean, being a private street doesn't mean it won't someday become a street, right? If more development comes in. Like I know it dead ends down there, right? Is there anything it could build down there?
Well, there is a business down there, isn't there?
Could become a street.
Part of that's outside the city. Town anyway.
Okay, okay, okay. So really, we just have 3 lots that we are looking at really with the 5
One.
feet.
2, 3 and part, no, 17, 16, 6 and a part of
Oh, I guess part of 5,
5.
part of 5.
But again,
Starts in-
we'll put the HOA easement, landscaping easement along the whole wall, so that's maintained by the HOA. Yeah. So we're, okay, we'll put that between now and the final plat.
So that needs to be on our recommendation to council. We would need to add the HOA easement for all fencing, was it, you said?
Yeah, I would say everything that's not, everything in fencing that's not already part of HOA. Not part of landscape.
Landscape easement.
You'd expect to cost much.
So we're back to looking at, are you ready to approve with conditions? Are you ready to approve without conditions? Are you ready to deny for a reason? Those are your 3 options.
I'm ready to approve with the easement conditions.
I can do that.
I have a motion to make that happen.
Motion to approve with the landscape easement conditions.
Could I stop this for a second?
After he seconds, now we have discussion time, sure.
Okay. Get it. Sorry.
Second.
This, I would like to put on the record that it is unusual for this body. In fact, we've never done it, to recommend approval on a 5-foot strip and consider that a not double frontage. However, we do recognize that this is a unique type of property that there may not ever be another one. And we're taking that into consideration. But for the record, we want to make sure that you recognize that it is because of the uniqueness of this property. And the ordinance that we're working on, could you refresh my memory on that?
The subdivision design standards, it's actually section 3.5D.
We have a recommendation. We have a second. So is there more discussion or are we ready to vote? Did you get everything? Okay. All in favor? Unanimous. Pardon?
Are we closed?
We closed the meeting at 8:44. I forgot that.